G'day everyone. It's Sean Cole here. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Green Life Industry Australia. Also have some presenters and guests with me today, which I'll introduce. But this webinar is all about when things essentially go pear-shaped, when things get a bit tight, and like the Beatles said, I get by with a little help from my friends, and sometimes those friends are outside the normal circle that you might call on. So obviously, a lot of family businesses, but also corporate businesses in our nursery industry. You may rely on friends and family, your business partner, your wife, your husband to discuss issues, be it financial or otherwise, in your business. But it's really important to know there's a bigger network out there, including GIA, but also the Department of Ag, and also even we'll be talking about how statistics and business benchmarks can potentially help you find the way in tough times. So. With that said, I think we all acknowledge that we're in very, very uncertain times. There's something called the World Uncertainty Index. It's an all-time high. The chart is basically like this, and then peaks like this late last year with the war, obviously in the Middle East, and we've got Russia, Ukraine. So I think if you've been feeling, a little bit listless, or things aren't quite normal, you'd be with the rest of the world on that. And sometimes we need to step back and realize that we can only control the things that we can control a lot of the time, and not plan for every scenario, but have plans in place for where we can have influence. So today we've got our guests on board. So if we just go to the next slide, obviously I've got myself here speaking to you. I'll make it very short, but we've got Matilda from Department of Ag, so DAFF Policy Officer. She is going to talk about the programs that are available through the department. We also have Sarah from the Department of Agriculture. She's also going to go through what assistance programs that the federal government has, and other programs. So they'll be joining us later. We also have Dan Watson from Down to Earth Research. He's going to be talking about the data and the stats side to help us understand where we are in business, and that helps us create more certainty when planning or working through issues going forward. Also, we have Beth Dunne. She's the owner of Urban Tree Growers, and she's got her own personal story about intervention and how that helped her business. And we also have our very own Barry Naylor, who's our rock star EO and leads up our EO team, our Extension Officer team here at Green Life Industry, based in Queensland. So good to have you here, Barry. Obviously, we're dealing with many different things, different pressures in businesses. We know we're dealing with higher input costs, higher fuel prices, interest rates higher than they have been in the last couple of years, and we're waiting to see what happens there. There's many things that are largely out of our control, but I think today is all about putting plans in place, or knowing who to reach out to when things get a bit tight. So with that said, I will throw to Beth to tell us more about her experience when things got a little bit tough.
Awesome. I think Emily might just play a short video, and then I'll speak to that. Thanks.
Welcome to Urban Tree Growers. Nestled in the paddocks of Gippsland, we are a local family-run nursery, growing deciduous trees for gardens, farms and developments. Most days are spent growing trees, loading orders and working behind the scenes. We love knowing the trees that leave here will become a part of the landscapes people will enjoy for years to come. Thanks for following along, and get around Tree Tuesdays.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Yes, so thanks for having me here. This is a bit daunting, speaking to others in our industry, and I can't see your faces, so I think I'd prefer to be in a room, to be honest. But here we are, and I've been really fortunate to participate in quite a number of the programs that will be spoken about later on in the presentation. I'm probably a personality type that just jumps at the option to get involved and do certain programs if I can better myself and our business. But each program has really provided us a little bit of an insight into how our business can go better, and how we can be more productive, or have a better life and outcome for ourselves. So yeah, I think starting with the question of, like, if you can see your business, what is that one thing that you'd want to improve tomorrow? Knowing the answer to that, but just knowing that there's questions out there that you don't know. So I've sort of touched on 5 things that I've learned from a number of programs. The main, I'll speak to a bit later, but the main thing is you connect with people through programs, and I think that's really vital. For number 1 is systems. We through the Lean Leaders program, which was a Hort-funded program, looked at the inventory system and just our software and streamlining it. It's not working perfectly, but it used to be just in sort of our team manager's head. And so if we can make sure that that's across the board, we can be a bit more efficient and we can sort of take a step back without taking all the information with us. From one of the programs, I took away that you are not the business and the business isn't you. So making that distinction of I'm not the business and the business not me, but asking the business questions rather than asking yourselves questions, asking it of the business. We worked through succession planning in a different way, where a manager was taking time into retirement, but trying to get as much knowledge as he had out of his head, but also then looking at roles of how we can, instead of looking at the role that he has, but roles on a general. So looking at what our strengths are and where we would step in and get people in. And I think that was really vital to see that it's not just all on our shoulders. And we were able to get some seasonal staff. And I think connecting in with another grower and working out how they employed seasonal staff was really vital in creating our team to run efficiently. Also, the one thing that Dan will touch on is like know your numbers. So he'll go into that, but also having someone there and accountable and who knows the numbers to work you through it, because sometimes they get a bit overwhelming. So being able to have someone there and accountable to that is awesome. You're also, a lot of you probably in small businesses, the business is there to support your life and not to run your life. I think being able to take a step back, and these programs are all about taking a step back and looking at what we want our life to look like. What the cliche of what the 5-year plan is, but really just taking that time to see what the steps you need to do to make sure that you can achieve what you want. An example was my husband was going to take a holiday, and we knew that he couldn't step out of the business if we didn't have the systems in place to do that. And he's just been able to take 2 weeks off with his family, visiting Ireland, which is amazing. But 12 months ago, that wouldn't have happened. But I think we've got those systems in place now that we know where we need to step up in that area, and what systems we need to do. But the main thing from all these programs is just the connection with people that I now can call another grower and I've asked them about the backpackers, or I've asked them about marketing. Also just having someone accountable of, have you got your 5-year plan? Have you done this? But they'll sit there and do it with you. So you're not feeling alone and doing it by yourself, or another thing that you have to do. And I think in this day and age of so much technology, having real people is like a really lovely thing to do. So in conclusion, are we perfect? Absolutely not. And is our business making millions of dollars? Absolutely not yet. But we have the systems and we enjoy what we do, and we kind of love it again, which is awesome. And we know what success looks like for us. So we're really happy with that. But my main thing is just use the programs. Like, you can't take away everything from them, but if you take away one little advice, I think it betters you and it betters the business as a whole. But yeah, there's plenty of programs out there to get around. So thank you. And I am throwing to Dan. I forgot I'm doing the throw too. So Dan, talk about numbers.
Thanks, Beth. You obviously covered the people aspect. I'll cover the much more boring numbers side of things. So most of you are likely aware that the Nursery Industry Statistics Project has run annually for a number of years now. I think any of the growers in the room would have received an email from me over the past couple of years. So hopefully nice to put a face to that email. It is one of our favourite projects that we're involved in. We engage with some great people in the industry, and obviously love being involved in an industry that has such positive outcomes for people's health and the environment. So the Stats project captures the value, volume and impact of green life production in Australia, and it has some really valuable outcomes. Firstly, is that it provides data that's used to produce a data collection report, an online dashboard, and an interactive business benchmarking tool. So each of these can be used to help production businesses make informed decisions, benchmark their business performance, and identify where business pressures may be before they become true cash flow stresses. So the second use case of the project, which I have to throw in here as well, is that it provides really essential data for industry advocacy. So critical for Sean and GIA and the state associations to be able to have conversations with government and say that the industry is valued at $3.5 billion. We employ 22,000 people, and whether sales are growing and we need to support our businesses in that growth, or potentially sales are stagnating and there needs to be conversations around stimulating that demand for plants. So the data really helps people take notice of the industry. Next slide, please, Em. So the project gives growers and industry a really accurate overview of the industry's operating environment and confidence of where the industry is heading. So production nursery sales increased 3% year on year in 2024-25 to that 3.5 billion figure that I mentioned. So a big market that production nurseries have to sell into, and there remains plenty of opportunity for growth. But we do know that a large proportion of the industry are unable to realise their full growth potential. And the data in the reports can help clarify where some of the constraints to growth may be present. And these are really commonly input costs, labour challenges, particularly for those bigger businesses. But it may be other constraints like managing and preventing pests, weeds, diseases, so the biosecurity aspects. Or it might be that, you know, it's stock supply and stock losses that need to be identified. And the data can help identify and take those first steps into improving growth and improving profitability for the business. And it might be that we identify that these are the constraints to growth and we need to speak to an extension officer. We need to seek a business plan that some of the federal government programs are offering. The data can also be used to clarify business opportunities. So the latest report identified the basic automation like the automated irrigation is really commonplace in production nurseries, but the more advanced systems, the automated climate control, automated barcode systems, automated data systems are fairly limited in their adoption across the industry. And this may be an opportunity for some businesses to implement into their systems and mitigate some of the constraints to growth and profitability that may be present. Next slide, please, Em. So the data is also there to identify and monitor trends in industry sales. So this is just an example of some of the data that's produced. And you can see in that first chart that retail nurseries remain the largest sales channel for production nurseries, with estimated sales at around 1.5 billion. And 60% of those sales go to our big box retailers. And that segment and that share is growing year on year. So that in itself is an opportunity and a risk that businesses within the industry need to be monitoring. We can also see that sales to other wholesale nurseries have been fairly stagnant since 2018-19, whereas sales to landscape builders and developers have grown year on year to the highest recorded level in 2018-19. And this data is unlikely to directly result in changes to business systems, but it is a data point that we need to use alongside our other sources of information that are used to guide business decisions. So it might be that it's a prompt to speak with your business advisor, the extension officers, or husband, wife, whoever might be the key decision maker in the business, and see if we're really operating to that overall profitability that's optimal for the business. Next slide. Thanks, Em. So data from the Nursery Stats project is also used to produce an interactive business benchmarking tool, which allows production nurseries to compare their performance with businesses of a similar size. So these benchmarks aren't a hard target or a need for judgment or an instruction to cut costs, but they can really be used as a prompt for further investigation. So you can use the tool to compare sales, wages paid, salaries, employment numbers, input costs, investment in infrastructure and new technology, and you can compare that with businesses with similar turnover ranges. And we know that there's incredible diversity within the industry, and that every production nursery is unique, and that diversity definitely creates some challenges. But we've got a pretty robust data set now, and there's a good chance that there is other businesses that are relatively similar that are also providing their data. So some of the feedback that we receive from businesses is that they're using the tool to sense check investments in technology, might be investments in labour or other inputs. And it's also used to guide businesses that are in a growth phase. So sales may have doubled, and it gives a guide in terms of how many staff members may be required, or what sort of labour costs, where the labour costs should be sitting for that turnover. Conversely, if there's contraction, you can use the tool for a similar purpose. Next slide, thanks, Em. So if I was a business and only had a few minutes to start, I'd suggest 3 pressure point checks. Firstly, looking at the operating costs. We know it is the main constraint to growth, and obviously we're seeing operating costs, wage costs trend upwards at a fairly quick rate. So in 2024, 2025, operating costs represented around about 80% of average business turnover. And that was fairly consistent across our different business sizes, but that had increased from about 72% in 2020 to 2021. Secondly, I'd look at wage costs. Nationally, wage costs represent an average of 39–40% of business turnover. This is higher among smaller businesses. Thirdly, I'd look at that labour productivity. So turnover per full-time equivalent, which nationally is sitting at around about 190,000 per full-time equivalent. Higher for those larger businesses that have that great opportunity to have the efficiency, and a little bit lower among our small businesses. So if a nursery is well below their peer group, it doesn't automatically mean poor performance. It really is a prompt to look at labour scheduling, production flows, plant handling, wastage, dispatch, and any sort of automation options that may improve the systems. So before I finish up, it is really important that we continue to have production businesses participate in the Nursery Stats projects, whether it's in terms of advocacy or building that individual benchmarking data. I think it really does have good return on time invested for businesses within the industry. So the next step in that support journey after identifying pressure points may be to explore what government support is available. And Matilda is going to run through some of those incredibly beneficial government programs.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. This is my colleague Eve. We're here today representing the Farm Business Resilience, or FBR, program from the Department of Agriculture. Next slide, please. So the FBR program is one of many funded via the Future Drought Fund, and one that delivers directly to farmers and land managers. So to start, I wanted to briefly talk about what drought and climate resilience mean in the FBR program. The program intends to help participants to have resilient farm businesses, meaning they have the ability to adapt or transform business practices in response to drought and dry periods, or the unpredictability of rainfall, for improved productivity and profitability. This kind of resilience, being able to prepare for, respond to, and recover from drought, is particularly important in Australia's changing climate, as we can expect more frequent and more severe droughts. The program helps farm businesses to improve their ability to manage challenges, including drought and climate variability and other business risks. It builds on the knowledge, skills, and capability farmers and growers already have, while supporting them to think ahead and develop strategies and identify specific actions to build their business's resilience. The program's learning areas include farm business planning, strategic business skills, natural resource management, climate adaptation, decision-making and risk management, and personal and social resilience, including mental wellbeing. Activities include one-on-one business coaching, small and large group workshops, peer networks, and online events, including webinars. Next slide, please. The FBR program has been running since 2021 and is currently funded through to 2029 with the possibility of an extension. FBR is delivered in partnership with the state and territory governments, allowing states and territories to tailor delivery to the needs of their farmers and agricultural industries and build on existing government and industry initiatives, including partnering with Green Life industry in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. The program's flexibility means it's available during all stages of the drought cycle. However, it does not provide hardship support. The program is designed to be accessible and remove barriers to participation, including prioritising support for First Nations peoples, remote communities, young people, and women across regions and industries. The program has a flexible approach to eligibility designed to maximise public good, which means many program places are highly subsidised. Now, time to explain the numbers. So more than 20,000 learning and development sessions have engaged over 75,000 attendees across Australia. More than 5,500 farm business plans have been developed and over 1,000 existing plans have been updated within the program. A further 3,300 plus business plans have received professional feedback. So what makes FBR different to other programs? While most existing initiatives approach resilience through the lens of productivity and profitability or natural resource management, sustainable farm practices, FBR takes a holistic approach to resilience through farm business management, risk management, and strategic planning. This means that practices, tools, knowledge, and engagement strategies delivered through the program aim to support environmental, social, and economic resilience while partnering with other existing initiatives to reduce duplication of programs. Next slide, please. How can you get involved in the program? Now is the perfect time to express your interest in the program as we've just begun phase 2 of FBR with learning and development sessions rolling out across the country. As mentioned previously, GIQ in Queensland, GINSW in New South Wales and GIV in Victoria support the delivery of FBR program to nursery participants. If you'd like to learn more about the program or express your interest, you can scan your state's respective QR code up on the screen or search Farm Business Resilience Program online. And now I'll throw it to Sarah.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to Sean and Green Life Industry Australia for inviting us to have the opportunity to talk to you all. And I'm here to talk about the Rural Financial Counselling Service. I work in the RFCS team in the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. Next slide, please. So, the Rural Financial Counselling Program. Just before I start talking about the program, I'd just like to let you all know that there is always support measures available to primary producers. We know that in Australian primary producers operate in volatile markets and environmental conditions. So many small to medium-sized enterprises are susceptible to these risks, which can be compounded by lower financial capability, delayed decision-making, and attitudinal factors. This can limit strategic business management and lead to financial hardship. So the Rural Financial Counselling Service Program is a national program that's been running since 1986, 40 years this year. It's a free, confidential financial counselling service for farmers, fishers, foresters, and small related businesses that are in or at risk of financial hardship. The service providers and the rural financial counsellors are located in agricultural communities, and they all have a solid understanding of the industries and the risks that are operating in their respective regions. So this includes supporting undercover and outdoor nursery and floriculture producers, with approximately 100 clients from these industries accessing the service last financial year of 25-26. Last year, the program assisted almost 7,500 clients nationally. Next slide, please. So the objectives of the program. The Australian government continues to invest in the RFCS program to support producers through the tough times with the overall desired outcome of a financially capable, profitable and resilient agricultural, fishing and forestry industry. Support to clients is done by helping them to transition out of that immediate financial crisis, support them to assess the business viability so that they can make informed decisions about the future and improve their overall financial well-being. But the most important thing to stress is always reach out early if your business is starting to struggle so that the rural financial counsellors can assist you. There'll be more options available the earlier you jump in. Next slide, please. How can rural financial counsellors help? So transactional support is really short-term assistance that is usually provided to clients following a natural disaster, for example, where they might need some assistance to complete forms or apply for grants. This is a very limited support and it doesn't assist the client to get a better understanding of where the business is at. The real benefits are from rural financial counsellors implementing strong case management. And this is by helping clients to understand their business situation and what the underlying problems are. They'll support the clients to come to terms with the situation and feel in control of their future. The counsellors will discuss possibilities and the longer-term goals of clients. They'll build the financial knowledge and the skills and support clients to access other government programs and assistance that might be available, either through federal, state, local, and other charitable organisations. They'll help through representation and client advocacy, for example, mediation with the banks and creditors. They'll also refer clients to other professional services such as the mental health, legal or succession planning that may be required to assist the business. And then they'll work with the clients to implement those plans and the strategies and the monitoring of the progress. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned at the start, there is always support programs available, along with the Rural Financial Counselling Service. These include the Farm Household Allowance. It's a time-limited income support program that assists recipients with low cash flow, the space to identify the drivers of the financial hardship, while they take action to address their long-term financial self-sufficiency. Eligibility does depend on the assets and income limits, but we would strongly encourage people to reach out to Services Australia. Just as a quick statistic, from 2014, when the FHA commenced, there has been approximately 375 individuals in the nursery and floriculture industries that have accessed FHA. The Regional Investment Corporation's loans. So the RIC offers concessional loan products to farmers in financial need. There are a range of loans available with different eligibility criteria. We have the Farm Management Deposit Scheme, and it is a risk management tool. So primary producers can access this, providing it provides tax concessions and encourages them to build cash reserves in high income years, which they can then draw on in future years when income may have dipped. There is also a range of tax settings that can support preparedness and self-reliance. For example, there's the depreciation and the asset write-off arrangements, and these can support investment in infrastructure and equipment, and that can help improve resilience to future input or supply shocks. Next slide, thank you. So this slide provides you with some information about the programs. There is also a separate rural support fact sheet that will be sent to each participant, and that provides a bit more further information on the supports available and how you might go about accessing information for those. Thank you again for the opportunity to discuss the RFCS program.
Thank you, Sarah. That was fantastic. And previously working in grains and cattle and dairy, I can really vouch for some of those programs. And they may not be that visible to the nursery industry. Note, Sarah, we've got people using them, but just to get the word out there is so important. There's some really good first touch points there with that phone number there, and we'll circulate all of these materials afterwards. So with that said, we'll hold questions to the end. So please feel free to put any questions in the chat for all of those online, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. But I'll call on Barry to step up to the plate.
No worries. Thank you very much, Sean. So as was mentioned earlier, I'm Green Life Industries Australia's Principal Extension Officer and also Extension Manager. And some of you may not even know what that is. We are part of a Hort Innovation Levy-funded national program called the Sustainable Plant Production and Biosecurity Preparedness Project. And we have extension officers available all around the country to assist growers. It's really important to say at the outset, levy funded, available for you today, complimentary. It's already been funded. So I'm going to just use a couple of anecdotes that I've collected over the 20 years that I've been doing this in various roles, just to explain how sometimes, and a bit like's been said today, what's wrong with just asking for help or guidance or another opinion about improvement or resilience in your business. So some 20 years ago, I was working out of the Queensland office, and it's an example of something we can offer in extension today, is to help people improve how they manage and use water. And so we have anecdotal evidence with nurseries that I had to report on, where we might evaluate the irrigation in a particular area where it's not performing to its best. We upgrade the irrigation in that particular area and then reevaluate what we're able to do by way of productivity from that area now that it's actually being efficiently irrigated. It's absolutely mind-boggling the difference that just something like that can make, to the tune of, it would be reasonable to say that turnover from some of the worst ones that I improved would be that you could turn over 8 to 10 times the crop value out of an area once it's been upgraded to best management practice irrigation. So that's going from a fairly low base, obviously, to get those kind of numbers. But we would encourage the time not to just set and forget, because irrigation is not just about watering the plant and making it wet. It's about keeping it at optimum irrigation to make sure you maximize growth. So I have heaps of examples that are like that. But one that's probably more pertinent, given what we've been talking about earlier by way of resilience, is with the reported El Nino coming, I've already got growers that I am working with to establish how they will manage their alternate water supply, which might necessitate them putting in, say, a reverse osmosis to improve the quality of their second supply. And so I might be advising them about, and the team would do the same, about where they might get that particular equipment, and also working with them about the numbers. What are the numbers of the water quality that they would be looking for to grow their plants in a low water environment that El Nino would present. That is bread and butter everyday activities for your extension team. So I would encourage you, if you don't already know who your extensionist is, you seek that out through GIA and start using it, as I said, complimentary for you. We would also, if we think about that irrigation thing, most people are pretty good with irrigation. But particularly with scheduling, that might be something they could work with. But that's really at the sort of basic end of things. If we move through to the biosecurity end and use some, give you some examples of what we might do on a nursery site. So we're dealing with growers all the time. They might do something like implementing an import procedure for importing their plants. Why would they do this? They do it because if they can spot a problem in a plant that they might get in tube stock as an example, they're able to treat it in a much more confined space rather than having it all around the nursery, where it will then enable to infect the crops next door. So people that have implemented these things just report the massive saving that it is to be able to control those biosecurity risks at a line, at import. And why would, as I said, why would they do it? It's loss reduction. So that if you notice that you've got something in that imported plant and you deal with it, then it is a far more proactive step to be dealing with it at the beginning of the process, rather than waiting for that to proliferate and become more widespread in your nursery sense. So people that do that report significant changes to their business. And it's a simple, we say in biosecurity, it's just stop. What am I letting onto my business? If we then extend that into, and some of you will have heard me present on this before around the nation, there was a project done in crop monitoring in 2019 through to 2021. And the whole aim of it was, if you were proactive and you conducted rigorous crop monitoring, what would that actually mean for you financially? And what that particular levy, again, Hort Innovation levy funded project, what it actually proved, some really substantial anecdotal evidence that those people that implemented rigorous crop monitoring, again, were able to nip something in the bud very early in the procedure. So it meant that, instead of going, oh dear, we have this pest in that crop, when it's basically moderately to severely infected, by looking regularly on a regular weekly or fortnightly basis, you know exactly what's going on in your crop, what the level of pest or pest pressure is, maybe what by doing that crop monitoring, you also are able to index, I suppose, the success or failure of any other treatment that you might have done, whether it be pesticide application or the introduction of a beneficial. So what people that were able to do that were able to prove, there were several nurseries involved in that around the country. They all reported significant improvement in their business when they adopted this crop monitoring activity. This is a little bit different from just wandering around the nursery or just collecting information that we do every day. It's actually a designated activity. But I can also tell you that we have very large nurseries, and it's not just for large nurseries. I have plenty of nurseries that have 3 or 4 staff that implement this system. But I also have an example of a large nursery that is on record with saying that the proactive steps that they've been able to adopt have saved them $500,000 a year. So even if you scale that, I've got several nurseries where that would be, say, $20,000 or $30,000 in management of pest issue costs that they're able to save by implementing these proactive steps. It's all about loss reduction. It's about reducing costs by having less losses, more saleable plants ready on time. Lastly, just to sum up, it's really important to know that the extensionist is already funded and we are already there. We have a New South Wales-based extensionist who I believe is online. We have a Victorian-based extensionist. We have a West Australian-based extensionist for West Australia and Northern Territory. And we have a relatively new South Australian and Tasmanian extensionist available, as well as me for Queensland and Northern New South Wales. We cover the whole country. We're here for you, and I would encourage you, considering that it has already been funded, that you take advantage of those services. On that note, Sean, I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Barry. No, that's excellent. And just to reiterate, it's your levy funds, guys. So that basically pays for the extension team to be out there for you. So please feel free to reach out. Like Barry said, it's complimentary. So look, I'm just looking to the Q&A now, and look, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, I'll just remind everybody that all participants that join the call today will receive these materials via an email, I believe, probably from Emily or our generic email address. So if you have any questions or need any phone numbers or contact details, they'll be in there. Until we have any questions in the chat, I might just randomly throw some out there. And I might go to Sarah first. Sarah, obviously you mentioned that we've got about 100 people that have taken up the program in the prior financial year, I think it was. And obviously it's a mix of obviously there'd be nursery growers in there, right, to floriculture as well. Do you think a barrier is the fact that nurseries are a bit, sometimes, not all of them, but a bit more sort of closer to the larger urban centres or within suburban environments, so they don't quite reach out the same way that, say, a grain grower or a cattle farmer 500 k's west of a capital city would do?
Thanks, Sean. A very interesting question, but I'm not quite sure. We have councillors in a lot of the regional cities, so we're not sort of just remote for the, stereotypical beef farmer or sheep farmer or crop grower. I know that I know from some of the data that there are some smaller growers that are in cities or just outside the cities that are accessing the service and are aware. It may well be that there might be people that could benefit from the support that just don't know about us. And that is something that we work with our providers that are nationally sort of represented. We have them in all states and the Northern Territory. ACT is supported by Southern New South Wales provider. So I do wonder sometimes about whether it's just a lack of awareness of that availability.
Yeah. I think that would definitely be part of it, Sarah. That's right. And look, I think that's part of doing these webinars to say, hey, we've got all these wonderful resources, so you don't need to carry the weight of the world on yourselves. I know previously being the wine grape industry that's still suffering, the Rural Financial Counselling Service and the FABs as well. I think they have in South Australia. We're great,
Yes.
Really tough times, and they helped a lot of families through and people through that couldn't see the way out. So like if you are feeling like that on the call, just know there's a lot of people you can reach out to, at least for initial chat. We can point you in the right direction. I was just, while we're waiting for any other, I'm just checking we don't have any questions in on the Q&A. Feel free to put anything in there. With yourself, Barry, and the team, how do most of the inquiries come in? Is it the phone runs hot and you guys run out there, or is it part of a structured program or a combination of both where, you're scanning for people that are probably struggling a little bit? I mean, obviously, I know you've got a big heart, you'd be looking for any way we can help our growers. So how does it come about when you sort of try and help people with the way forward?
Thanks, Sean. I guess the thing is that it does start with random phone calls and what have you. We obviously have a visit, a master schedule of all of the growers, and what happens is you just start doing your rounds as you go around and collect those people. But what I would say is that those that it's surprising how many people they might say to you in general conversation, oh, I just wish blah blah blah, and you go, I can help you with that, and of course, the thing is that we're not meant to, individually, we're not meant to know the answers to every question, but because we're a network of extensionists around the whole country, there's a fair chance that one of us have encountered something like that before, whatever that is. And I think that people, when you improve one particular part of their business, next thing you know, they want to know what else they ask you, what else could I improve? What do you notice? Another set of eyes. And one thing that I'll probably miss saying is it's actually remarkable how many people are adopting our BMP. So we're not really wedded to the idea of people becoming what we would call NIASA, EcoHort, or Biosecure HACCP certified. However, it's amazing how many people do want to, once they get in the momentum and the change, they make those positive changes. So they improve a couple of elements of their business, and then you as the extensionist can say to them, hey, do you realise that that there's this program that you could be sort of participating in? They do the last 6 or so things that they need to do, and next thing you go, well, we can actually put you forward for accreditation in one of our particular programs. So it's probably start small, Sean, might be the best answer. They might have one little area that they need improvement, and of course, once they get the win, which is both a win for them and that they trust you, that you can provide them with sound advice, then away you go, and right through to the adoption of our programs.
Yeah, excellent, Barry. No, thanks for taking that one without any notice whatsoever. Very good. Dan, we've got a question here, or anyone else that's willing to help me out. Is the nursery stats tool available online to download?
So the tool is available to anyone that's participated in the survey and levy payers. So the best way to access it is getting into contact with Green Life Industry Australia, shooting MMS an email. There is also a stats page on the GIA website, and there will be a link through for getting through to someone there.
Yeah, great, Dan. And the benchmarking really fascinates me. I think it's great. You can actually see on an anonymous basis other people's numbers. Is that an opt-in thing? Like how do actually people participate in that?
So typically each year around about 300 businesses participate. There is options for more to participate. There is a reasonable amount of work obviously involved in producing the data. It's probably a couple of hours work to collate the data that's required to participate, and then probably about 20 minutes to complete the survey itself. So you can send me an email directly if you want to participate. We go out to a random sample of businesses as well throughout the surveying period, and you can complete a survey, whether it's online, directly through a Word document, or by a telephone as well.
Yeah, great, Dan. So basically reach out to your good self, and if people get lost, just come to GIA and we'll point you in the right direction. So obviously our contact details will be sent, and they're on the website. So I'm just looking for any other questions, but otherwise I think everyone's going to get an early minute. But I think it's been really productive. I mean, we'll have different pressures on us in life and business, and just knowing there's people out there you can talk to, you just pick up the phone and get talking. So with that, unless there's any other questions or queries, everyone on the call, just thanks to all of our presenters. I think you've done a great job, especially putting up with me hosting these things, and the materials will be sent out. And a special thanks to Emily as well for organising all of this. So Emily's the star behind the show. So thanks, Emily. So with that, wish you all a good afternoon, depending on where you are, and we'll see you next time.